Hi, Pam. Thanks for joining today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Dick. Thanks for having me today. I am Pam Gilbert, and I am the co-chapter chair for the Greater St. Louis chapter and also the Associate District Director of Missouri and Kansas.
Very good. And would you like to talk a little bit about your background?
Oh, sure. Be happy to. My background's a little bit diverse. I ended up in St. Louis because of a job right out of college. I grew up in Springfield, Missouri, went to Southwest Missouri State, which is now Missouri State University. And literally a week after I graduated, I had to move to St. Louis to start a new job in the fashion industry, which is what my degree was and didn't stay in that industry for long. Moved into an industry that I had never even heard of before, and it was the advertising specialty industry, the ad specialty. So everything that has a logo on it for the corporate world. And I was working for the largest ad specialty company in the country, Herman Marketing, at that time. I think it was then sold to Corporate Express and now Staples, and I don't know from there. But I was a buyer for them, purchasing all different types of logoed merchandise and working with all the vendors. And after a couple of years of having the opportunity and experience in that industry, I moved actually to the vendor side and went to work for an apparel manufacturer that was selling to all the ad specialty companies. And I had a territory, a pretty sizable territory in the Midwest. So I was on the road about 3 weeks out of the month. Um,
Oh,
just a couple of years out of college and really getting in there and learning sales, and then eventually into sales management. And I was working for a company that was owned by K2, a company out of Chicago that originally had started as a family-owned business, which really fits right in with SCORE and helping small businesses and people wanting to start a business. And then from there, I went on to work for another apparel manufacturer out of the New York area and did that for a few years and in management, and then decided to get married and decided to venture out and have my own business in manufacturing. So I went from, fashion to, sales management in the apparel industry, selling apparel and working for manufacturers to buying a struggling, failing small manufacturing company that though was actually making packaging for the fresh food industry and primarily the produce industry. We were making packaging for, and then also for the meat and poultry and the seafood industry. And when you go buy a bag of onions or avocados in the grocery store, it's that netting, printed film, and printed tags that I was manufacturing and blowing film, big printing presses. And then I ended up about 11 or 12 years later selling my interest in the business and took some time off. Did a little traveling, reconnected with friends and family. I'd been a little bit of a workaholic and needed to get rebalanced
mhm.
in my life, which was a good thing and a wonderful thing. So I did a lot of traveling, some solo traveling in the country and out of the country, and was just really enjoying myself. And then I realized that this has been great, but I think it's time I get a little bit serious about doing something a little bit more worthwhile and with purpose and substance. And I wasn't sure what that looked like or what that should be. And I explored a few different things and started doing some things in the investing world. And traditional investing, some of it I was educating myself on, some I was taking courses on. And then also I started doing some investing in some alternative type, more riskier type investments and really learning and doing a lot there and having a lot of fun. And I still continue to do that to this day. But I still felt like I needed to be doing something more. And I felt like, hey, maybe it's time to get in, do some volunteer work for a type of organization and exploring that, what that would look like for me. And to me, I felt like, no, I wanted more hands-on, be more active. And I thought something, maybe if there was something in the business type realm that I could do some volunteer. And it's interesting. A friend of mine had told me about SCORE, and I had never heard of SCORE. And she said, I think this is right up your alley. I came across it. I met with some of the people, and I thought of you. And I really think you ought to check into it. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I wasn't convinced yet. So then the second time, another friend of mine had met a SCORE mentor at some type of business networking function and got a hold of me and said, "Hey, you won't believe this, but I just came across this organization. I'm going to have them help me. They're going to do, at that time, called a scan of my company because it was an established small business. But I thought of you. I think this would be right up your alley." And I said, "Well, funny thing is, I've heard of SCORE before from another friend of mine."
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, I really think you ought to check into this." I said, "Yeah, maybe." So then, I don't know, a few months went by and I was kind of Googling, looking around on the internet. Lo and behold, SCORE came up. I didn't actively go out searching, but I was just looking business consulting, business volunteering, business networking, anything that might come up that may steer me in some direction of business volunteer. And there was SCORE. And I decided the third time is a charm. You
Hmm.
need to act on this, Pam. So I did.
Wow, what a circuitous route to reach this point.
Yep. Well,
That
when they say the show me state of Missouri, well, I had to be shown three times that this is where I needed to go.
so that was 9 years ago. You've been with Score now 9 years as of this month.
Yes.
Your initial idea for what you wanted Score to be, has that played out? Or how has it played out?
Very interesting. I didn't think that I would end up where I have today with SCORE. My intentions were really to just mentor and be the primary focus of what I would be doing. And then if there was other additional help that was needed, I was more than happy to do so. But the main focus was to do mentoring. And so I did. When I first started out, that's what I was doing. And then there's a need, and I was being approached and asked to be what they called a branch manager over our offices when we had actual locations at this time. And this was all pre-COVID. And so I was working with the mentors, getting them assigned on a calendar, getting them at these locations with appointments, current and new clients, and all that good stuff, and getting exposure to the management side of SCORE in a chapter, what was different from a business, but of volunteers, which is very different and new versus managing when you're in an actual, business.
That's right.
Yeah, very different. So from there, I was approached, I don't know, probably I think about a year and a half or so into being with SCORE about being a co-vice chair. And I thought, well, maybe. And they said, well, if you do it, we really need you to commit. Okay. So I thought about it and thought, okay, I'll do it. I'll commit. I've committed to SCORE this far and to be a mentor and to get involved. So yeah, I'll do it. The help is needed. So they said, well, if you're going to be a co-vice chair, though, you eventually have to go on to be, a co-chair or a chair. Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Well, now I've accepted and now got the
Mm,
right.
okay,
So I was a co-vice chair for 2 years and was still mentoring, and then went on to be a co-chair. And during that time, myself and Rick Toman, who was the co-chair with me, we took over our role right in the fairly the beginning, about 6 months into COVID, and everything had come to a stop, which wasn't uncommon. I mean, everything had come to a stop in the
sure.
entire world,
That's right.
right? So it was no different for SCORE, but a lot happened and changed for us because we were not doing things from the digital standpoint. So where we really weren't fully in the digital age, COVID really kicked us into the digital age 100%. And we had to start doing things by Zoom, getting the volunteers, up to speed that weren't on using Zoom. We had to rebuild the education committee, which then you became a part of, thankfully, and have been a great lead and a great support and help because we weren't doing anything by Zoom. And that's where we needed to go. People were at home looking for things to do, wanted to continue their business education, needed to continue their business, but they were having to pivot as well, just like we were. We had to rebuild our membership committee. We were doing everything by Zoom, interviewing, training them, developing new volunteers and mentors by Zoom, training the coaches to do this, which was a complete change. And we were moving to a new operating system from Core to Engage. So there was a lot we were taking during that time. So to go back to your original question, did I expect all of that? No. Was I ready? No. What I was able to lean upon were the great volunteers in the chapter, new volunteers joining that were willing to step right up and get involved, even though maybe their first thoughts were to only mentor as well, but seeing the need to get around and help us, and leaning on my career experience that I had developed over all those years to really see what do we need to do, where do we need to go, the strategy, and looking into the future and what our chapter was going to look like in the next 5 years. And that's how I had to kind of plan. But I think we all achieved it together as a great team. So
That's right.
I'm pretty happy.
What an interesting process evolution that your career score has taken.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in closing, is there anything you'd like to share with the listeners?
Well, I've just been very grateful for my experience with SCORE. One concern I was worried about is this something that I'm really going to be able to help people, the business owners, people looking to start a business, the volunteers, the community, and myself as well to continue my growth as an individual and as a business person. And it really has helped in all those areas. SCORE has. It's really helped me to grow as a person. I've had the opportunity to work in a nonprofit in roles that I didn't originally plan to fulfill, but it's been a great experience. Um, I've been grateful to meet some wonderful people that are volunteers right with me, right next to me. I'm continuing learning from the volunteers in our organization. There's vast experience, great depth, very talented people that I constantly learn from, new things all the time. Been very grateful for the opportunity. And it's a great, wonderful organization. And I've been grateful that I've been able to help and give back and hopefully make a positive impact. And one of the biggest things is to be able to learn to work and develop volunteers and manage an organization that is primarily all volunteer organization, which can be challenging at time, but a lot of fun, a lot of great people. So I'm very grateful.
Great. Thanks, Pam. That's very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick.